We're excited to have our guest speaker today. I'm actually joining you from Royal Stadium. It's, no one else is here, but I'm here. Toby was meant to speak to us at our March luncheon, but he's been flexible enough to reschedule with us today. So before I introduce him, I want to let you know that he's going to answer any questions that you may have. Just put them up in the right-hand side of the chat, in the chat column, and we'll try to get to them after he is finished. So Toby Cook is in his 14th season with the Royals. That's hard to believe. He serves as the team's vice president of publicity. He's a veteran of broadcast journalism and is the main spokesperson for the club's off-the-field matters. Prior to joining the Royals, Toby spent 15 years as a news anchor and reporter at 4 television studios. He's also reported for several radio and other newspapers. Toby is a graduate of Pittsburgh State University, and he and his wife Barbara live in Overland Park, and they have 5 children. So please welcome Toby Cook.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Hey, Toby.
I'm here. I was just trying to figure out if somebody was clapping or if they were doing the wave thing and all of that. So. I'm grateful to be here today. Morgan and I have been emailing back and forth, and I told her that I was going to take advantage of working from home and wearing my Royals hat. You know what? That's almost business casual. I've been trying to comb my hair and put on some regular clothes when I do these events, and I appreciate you letting me kind of relax with you today. I do remember being asked early on about doing this, and I said yes. And then all of a sudden, I had an opportunity to do this virtually, like all of us have been meeting in terms of Zoom, or we have a format called 8x8, which we use at the Royals often. And we've gotten very, very good at video conferencing, and I'm sick and tired of it. And I just want to see people, and I hope that we see people sooner rather than later. So I thought maybe I would talk a little bit about what life has been like as a Kansas City Royals employee for the last couple of months, and then open it up to any and all questions that all of you have. I will tell you that I'm joining you by phone, by audio, and then from my secret location, which is my house and my very temporary setup, which I thought was going to be a lot more temporary than it is. But I'm very, very happy to be here. I've got one visual aid, which I'm going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. They are the royal blue and the powder blue masks that we gave to the University of Kansas Health System a couple of weeks ago. And then I'm very, very happy to answer any questions. I will start off with the big thing, which is when are we going to be playing baseball? And many of you have seen accounts in the media about what baseball is going to look like in 2020. All I can say, let me start off by saying, first of all, that Major League Baseball is going to make the official announcement. I wouldn't be surprised personally if what you've heard in the media is closer to reality than not, but I also can't confirm or probably deny anything because nothing official has come out from Major League Baseball at this point. But if you've read in stories about the possibility of a reboot of spring training in June, and the possibility of baseball in July without fans. I'm reading all of those stories too, and Major League Baseball is probably going to confirm either that plan or something else within the next week or two, which should be good because we're only about a week away from June anyway. So I can't, again, confirm anything, but I would suspect that we're going to be playing baseball and without fans at some point in 2020. And then my hope, without being able to say that it's going to happen, is that we're going to be playing in front of fans before the 2020 season ends. But again, until Major League Baseball says that that's the plan, I know almost as much as, I know a little more than everybody else on this call, but not a whole lot more than everybody else on this call. So we'll just see what happens. I want to say right off the bat also that there wasn't any time that evaporated between when this started to go down and when the Royals were fully and completely engaged in outreach to the community when it came to COVID response, which makes me very, very proud, again, to be a part of this organization. So all of you know that John Sherman is our new owner, and he took over with a big press conference at the, in fact, it was Thanksgiving week of 2019. And as he dove into all of this, he had an opportunity to go to FanFest, to start off with his first spring training. And all of a sudden, spring training just flat out ended. Boom. So he's trying to get his brain around what's it like to be an owner of a Major League Baseball club, and what are we going to do with the players here and with the front office here. And all of a sudden, he's on a call with other owners around Major League Baseball, and they're making plans to shut down spring training that afternoon. If memory serves me, I think we got rained out that day, so we weren't going to be playing anyway. We got rained out in Arizona. But then they never played again, and they all went home. You know, there was a short period of time in there where we didn't know how long this was going to last, and thought maybe it'd be quick. And they were talking about having all of the players stay at their spring training sites and to ride this out. And then it quickly became evident that they weren't going to be able to do that, that they were going to have to send all of the guys home. And then we've been sort of in a work from home pattern, just like all of you, for a while, trying to figure out what's going on. So as we all came back, it was the Monday after that all went down. And I remember these days. I actually don't remember the dates, but I remember these days, because on the Wednesday, middle of March, when the Big 12 basketball tournament was about ready to gear up, and they were saying just the week before, we've got plans in place and we think that we can pull off the Big 12 basketball tournament. And they played on that Wednesday, and then they shut it down. And then the next day, they shut down the Big 12 basketball tournament and the NCAA tournament. Pretty soon, hockey wasn't playing, and we just the week before were talking about, well, can really the city and the county tell us that we can't play baseball? And all of that flew out the window, and then we shut down spring training, and then we didn't know when we were going to be playing baseball. It wasn't more than 48 hours after that all happened that they were talking about what the Royals were going to do in and for the community, which is really the hallmark of the organization since I've been there almost 14 years. From the Glass family and transitioning to the Sherman family and all of the investors, I think to a person, they were like, you know what, we're going to figure out this baseball thing at some point, but we've got to be a part of the solution. And so we started this program called Royals Respond, where first we attacked food insecurity. And in short order, the players and the owners were making it possible for harvesters to provide 500,000 meals to harvesters and their partner organizations all over the Kansas City metro. We started off, I remember in the first week, with Salvador Perez singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," because "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" takes about 20 seconds to sing, and that's how long you were supposed to be washing your hands. And the players just jumped in with one thing after the other. And for the last couple of months, it's all been about managing that Royals Respond program for food insecurity, highlighting the need for blood donation, which, you know, when people weren't supposed to go anywhere, you had an email from the Community Blood Center saying that you were going to donate. You were supposed to be able to show that to law enforcement and say, this is why I'm out and about, because they are a first line responder. We weren't able to do blood drives like we wanted to, but people were able to go to the Community Blood Center. And we really use, thank God, our platform as a Major League Baseball team to get the word out about what people needed to know about staying at home, washing your hands for 20 seconds. If you want to help, you can contribute to these organizations. And I've said this on many, many occasions, probably more than I could count. I couldn't be any more proud of the last couple of months that the Royals have comported themselves. So that's been a big deal, being a part of the Royals Respond program. Knowing all the time that people wanted baseball back in play. And so we started with, okay, we're living in a virtual world. We're living in a digital world. People are following along on their TV and on their computer. So let's start throwing out classic games on TV for people to enjoy. The wild card game in 2014. I'm lying in bed one night early, and I haven't watched it, but I got a text from somebody saying we're all tied up. I'm like, okay, I know what he's talking about. Are we in the 12th inning, or are we in the 8th or the 9th inning? And he was watching the wild card game on TV, and he said all those memories were flowing back. This year we're showing the World Series from 2014. I think it's funny because we're showing them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We played 5 games of that World Series, and we're showing the 4 wins. During that whole time, we've got a 50-50 raffle going on where we're going to throw a bunch of money back at Harvesters and other locations like Mimi's Pantry and great organizations all over town. We've just been very, very busy at being a part of it. And then the other key is engaging our partners, our stakeholders. So not knowing when we were going to be playing baseball and not knowing when we were going to be playing in front of fans, we've had to really engage with our season ticket members and our corporate partners to say, all right, everything that you signed up for, it isn't going to happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. And so here's what we have planned for you. And so we announced about 3 weeks ago a program to start, and without a doubt, because we're trying to hold on to revenue as well, we were doing everything that we could to keep our season ticket members from doing refunds, but rather doing exchanges for later on, either this year or all in 2021, and trying to provide them incentives for doing so. Our salespeople were contacting every season ticket member that they could get a hold of and saying, here's what our plan was. No secrets here. We don't know when we're going to be playing, but this is what we want to offer you in order to stay with us. And when people said to us, I am in a position where this isn't going to work for me, I've got to get a refund, then we granted them a refund. Same thing with our corporate partners who had a contract. We're going to have 81 games where people were going to be seeing them, seeing their product either in the stadium or seeing the signage, et cetera. And we started working on a process to try to keep them in the fold. And I got to tell you that the majority of season ticket members and corporate partners have said, we'll work with you, we'll do what we need to do. Just like our people have said to them, we'll work with you, we'll do what you need to do. So it's been frustrating, crazy, scary, gratifying. I think a lot of the same emotions that many of you felt through this whole thing, but the sooner we start playing baseball again on TV and radio at first for everybody else, and then at some point at Kauffman Stadium, the sooner the better. But in the meantime, we got to hang with it a little while longer because we're not playing. A couple of things that I'll wrap it up with before I open it up to questions for this group. And I just gave a big overview, so I'm seeing some of the questions that are coming down or some of the comments that have happened. So keep firing those away. I often get asked what the day in the life of a baseball person is, and when the team is playing, we get into a baseball rhythm, which none of us have been able to get into, and that's been very, very weird. But it generally is that when the team is out of town and in the off season, we kind of have normal jobs, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5-ish. When the team is in town, they're 12-hour days, day after day after day, sometimes 14 and 15-hour days, day after day. And then there are exceptions to the both. So I can be just as busy in December and January as I am at any point during the season because I'm working on Fan Fest, which we do at the end of January. And I can also have little breaks during the season where we go into kind of a little bit of a lull. But this has been obviously completely different. And if you have gotten the Zoom fatigue, the video conferencing fatigue, like wanting to be around actual people, thank God for this because we can see each other, but we've gotten in some ways busier working from home or working from various locations than we were when we were in the stadium, you know. And that's all going to change, and we're going to have to get used to the getting back into a swing going out to the stadium. But, you know, on Tuesdays and Fridays for several weeks at 2 o'clock, we had a Zoom call with a lot of people where we were talking about all of these things that we were doing for the community and how we were communicating to our fans. I've had an opportunity on Wednesdays, and I just got off the phone with a group of people from the city and the county and the police and folks in our stadium ops, where we called it a coronavirus task force, where we got to just get a download from our physicians and healthcare personnel on what's going on around town and what we need to know from a fan perspective. Our department heads will talk on Thursdays at 10 o'clock. The VPs talk on Tuesdays at 10:30. You end up like repeating yourself and telling one group something that you have told 3 groups about, and then you forget to say something because you know, it's just been the juggling act to try to communicate with everybody. But I will say this, that we're communicating with each other as well as we ever have, just because we've had to. You know, it's funny, you are in the office and you could go down the hall and talk to somebody anytime you want, and you end up doing emails all day. And it's been a lesson to us that when we get back in contact with one another in person, that we need to make a little bit more time to spend actually talking to each other, because we can face to face. But we've stayed very, very busy in all of this. And, you know, on a personal note, I hope some of you have experienced what I have, which is that I've spent more time with my family than I ever dreamed I ever would before retirement. We've had meals together every night, and we're pretty good about it anyway, but it's been the highlight of our day, sitting down and having dinner together. I've gotten a fair amount of yard work done. There's plenty of things that I should have been doing around the house that I haven't, just the kind of stuff that you all have experienced. And as anxious as I am to get back to baseball and get back into the office, I can honestly say that there are some things that have happened in the last 2 months that I'm going to miss. And my wife and I have talked about, what can we do to keep this rolling? How can we continue to have this thing, which, you know, a family is the most important thing. How can we make it the most important thing and still get into rhythm? Because also saying that, I think that my wife and kids are ready for me to be back in the office. So that's what life has been like as a Kansas City Royals employee. I'll answer anything that you want to ask me. I know that we've got some here, but I would love to open it up after we go through some of this. And maybe whoever is kind of facilitating all of this, tell me if there's like a question or two that you would like for me to address right off the bat.
Yep. Hey, Toby, this is Sansi. I'm the board chair here. I've jotted down some of our questions through your presentation, so we can get to those. First question from Lori Dean. John Sherman, the new owner, tell us, what can you tell us about his background and what we can expect from him going forward? And also the, you know, the whole ownership group. What are their plans for the team?
Everything got thrown into, you know, COVID response that they didn't expect. But John Sherman has been a businessman around Kansas City for a long, long time and has very much flown under the radar. Many people didn't know his name. If you were a baseball geek, you might know that he was a minority owner with the Cleveland Indians for about 5 years. And that came about when he really wanted to be an owner in a Major League Baseball team and there wasn't a team to buy. But he was very, very close to the late David Glass, who died in the off season, right after the selling of the team, which was very, very strange. His memorial service was right after FanFest. And, you know, I felt like the transition was seamless, but the Glass family owned the club, and it was the family. With Mr. Sherman, who had made his money in the energy sector, I think that he was eyeing maybe the Royals one day. And the way that he tells the story is that David Glass called him during spring training of last year and said, it's time for my family to move along and we're going to be selling the team. And do you have any interest? And the long story short behind that is that Ewing Kauffman, from what I've been told, considered David Glass his hand-picked successor. And it sounds to me like John Sherman was David Glass's hand-picked successor. Somebody that had the same values that David Glass did, which was, I'm going to keep this team in Kansas City forever. I'm going to try to win regardless of our small market status, and I'm going to be a part of the community. And it has been seamless. I mean, it's crazy what the man has had to undergo, you know, going to spring training and then being on that phone call with all those other owners and then having this take place. But very much like David Glass would have handled it, he's like, you know, I've been on a call with him once a week with a bunch of other department heads, and every single time he starts off with an encouraging word. I continue to be impressed with the energy and the fact that you are throwing everything you can at it under a very strange and unique and once in a lifetime situation. And that's been very uplifting to all of us to hear him say that. He and his wife, Marnie, are involved in everything community and charity. Everywhere we went after it was announced that he was going to be the new owner, our partners, the organizations all over town said, you know what, they're very involved with us. And they just said it over and over and over. We just heard it time and time again. They're very, very big into education. Absolutely adore the Truman Library. There's an organization called The Whole Person that works to come alongside people with various disabilities. And we walked in there and they said, yeah, they've given us money. So very, very philanthropic, like the Kaufmans and like the Glasses. Very business oriented, and probably what makes them different from the Glass family is that the Glass family really never got a kick out of engaging with people for the sake of being in the mix, being in and around the high rollers in town. The Sherman family, on the other hand, is in the mix with the high rollers in town, but they have the same sort of low-key, humble approach to all of this, which is that they have winning baseball and keep the team in Kansas City forever and do good things in the community. And it's been very, very exciting. Now, I can't tell you a ton about the 22 other investors, but when we made the announcement about the organization, instead of a family buying the club and running it, this was John and Marnie Sherman primarily, and a bunch of investors around town, including, yes, Eric Stonestreet, the pride of Kansas State University and Modern Family, and a bunch of, and Big Slick celebrity softball tournament and on. And these were investors that Mr. Sherman described as all having either Kansas City ties or were Kansas Cityans or close ties with Kansas City, wherever they lived. And we got an indication early on that Mr. Sherman was going to be the owner, the CEO, and he was going to be the face of this investor group. But he did get other investors. And to hear him talk, they have been unbelievably supportive of trying to fight through these weird months that they've had to get through from when they were getting to know the organization right up until whenever we end up playing baseball. So I talk too long and I give way long answers to fairly short questions, but that's the John Sherman I know. I'm very, very excited to see him have an opportunity to actually have a baseball season, a normal baseball season, which we hope happens in 2021, but he's been extremely supportive.
Good. That's great to hear. Another question from our member, Barbara Langley. Will Salvi play this year?
Without a doubt. And he was going to play the very first game of the 2020 season when we thought it was going to be on March the 26th up in Chicago, and then our scheduled home opener on April 2nd. but his Tommy John surgery is complete. His recovery is complete, and he will be doing, you know, I'm guessing that he'll be doing salvi splashes even if people aren't in the stands.
That's great.
Yeah.
Toby, what are 1 to 2 highlights of your own career with the Royals? You know, obviously the World Series, but other than that, what are some highlights that you've enjoyed with the Royals?
Thanks for that question. I will try not to go on and on about this as well. So I'm going to say that Buck O'Neil died in 2006, right after I started, and Dan Glass, our then president, established the Buck O'Neil legacy seat, where we have somebody sit in the Buck seat every game, generally somebody that you've never heard of in the big picture, but plenty of people have come in contact with. Somebody that it's done extraordinary things, even though they might be considered ordinary. And we've had 1,066 Buck seat recipients, and that's been really the joy of my time with the Royals, is to see just a person in the community that gets to be put in honor. And in fact, I told you that I was going to show you these in just a second. I forgot about that. But I did bring my Buck bobblehead from the office, and that has become a part of my home office here. That's pretty cool. And I'll show you this as well. My favorite Royal of all after George Brett is Mike Sweeney, and he is living in my office as well, although the bat has gone away a long time ago. And just to make it a little bit more like my home office, my son, I have 5 kiddos, and my 12-year-old made this in class this year, and he knows that I love stuff like this. My office is adorned with more stuff like this than anything, so that's there. And then I'll tell one story. I've probably told it before, but my greatest memory as a Kansas City Royals employee was the 4th game against the Baltimore Orioles, the American League Championship Series, when we went into the 9th inning and we were 3 outs away from going to the World Series. You know, we hadn't made it to the playoffs for 29 years, and the electricity in the crowd when we were 3 outs away from going to the World Series in 2014 was my absolutely favorite moment. And then we were 2 outs away and 1 out away, and it was a joy that all of us kind of we had in our hearts from when the team was good in the 70s and 80s, and that was pretty thrilling. So those are a couple of my best memories ever.
Well, you just get goosebumps just thinking about that. That's great.
I know. I did too. And I always wrap it up with this story too. My wife was with me and my oldest son, and she had to get home to pick up our other kids or something. And when I walked her out to her car about 15 minutes after the game was over, the parking lot was like it was in the 7th inning. Nobody had left. They were all still in the stadium watching the ceremony about ready to take place on the field.
Thank you all for joining us. In those breakout rooms, I'd love to hear some of the stories that happened in there. If there's anything exciting or interesting, please email me. Again, fill out your surveys, and we appreciate your feedback. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you soon, and enjoy the rest of your week. Okay, thanks.